You want to hike longer and feel stronger so you can actually enjoy the trail instead of suffering through it. In this video, I'm breaking down a full week of real mountain strength training that I wrote for one of my private one-on-one coaching clients who was sick of feeling out of shape on every hike. I'm showing you everything from the exercises, the sets, the reps, why you're doing it, so you can follow the exact plan that helped him level up his fitness and finally have the fun in the mountains that he always wanted and accomplish his goals out there. Before we dive in, click that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. And if you don't know who I am, my name's James Appleton. I'm the coach and founder here at the 46 Outdoors Company, and I help hikers become their strongest self on and off the trail. So let's do that. Here is a full week of real mountain strength training. Let's jump in. All right, let's break down day one, mountain strength, day one. So we start these sessions with compound movements. Now, compound movements are going to use multiple joints, lots of muscles at once working together to lift the weight, give you what you're looking for. The best compound movements from what I have found are squats, bench presses, deadlifts. These are things that we're going to put in your training program. Now, if you aren't a squatter, you're not using barbells, even though I think you should, they're the most optimal way of training. If you do want me to do a video like this all about dumbbells only, comment the word dumbbells below and I'll put a video together doing that. But ultimately, things like squats and deadlifts and using a barbell is going to be the most optimal approach. Machines work fine, but ultimately we start the mountain strength day with squats. So his session had squatting, 2 sets of 6, with the reps in reserve being 1 or 2, meaning he's using a weight where he could only do 1 to maybe 2 more reps. So therefore, we're taking those 2 sets of 6 reps. It's going to be heavy, but we're taking it kind of close to that threshold so that it forces his body to have to adapt. And then 1 more set where he lowered the weight 20% for a max rep set. So we're all hikers, right? We want to have the strength, but we also need that muscular endurance too. Lowering the weight for a maximal amount of reps for that set is going to help you kind of have that middle threshold where it's still heavy, but you're also still training at a point where you're going to build the muscular endurance as well. It's a really nice sweet spot. Moving on, bench press. You're thinking, why do I need to bench press? Well, I want you to have a strong body, period, top to bottom. Your upper body needs to be strong too, because a shoulder injury is a shoulder injury, right? How easy is it to have a shoulder injury when you're out in the backcountry? You fall, you trip. So ultimately, we want to make sure your upper body is strong as well. So for that, I had him programmed at 3 sets of 5 with the reps in reserve of 1 to 2. So once again, he's still pushing that training to the brink where he could only do 1, maybe 2 more reps. Therefore, the weight has to be higher. You know, if it says 3 sets of 5, but you do a weight that you could do for 10 or 11 reps, you're not really pushing yourself hard enough. The weight's not heavy enough to warrant change. So you got to make sure that that weight is heavy enough to warrant change. And using sets in that 5 to 10 rep range, and in my opinion, 5 to 8 is the real sweet spot for our needs, for what we're doing out on the trail. That's a really good place to be. Now, within the strength portion of these mountain strength days, take as much rest as you need between sets, because the goal is not to have your heart beating through your chest. The goal is for you to have the ability to move as much weight as possible so that we get your muscles and your joints and your tendons and your ligaments strong. Next, we're going to move on to the elevation circuits. Now, this is where we are going to start to have your heart beating a little heavier. So on these mountain strength days, we start at the bottom. The foundation is our strength. And as we work our way up through the training session, now we're going to do some strength and conditioning at the same time. These are the elevation circuits. I like using dumbbells for these because they provide more strength, but they also allow you to move somewhat athletically. You have to do these circuits one after the other after the other. The point of these things is to get your heart beating fast while also lifting weights. So the way that we had this circuit structured, 3 rounds of 12 reps and 15 seconds rest between each exercise. So you're not necessarily sprinting from one exercise to the next, but what you are doing, very consistently moving from one to the next. 15 seconds goes by real fast. when you're doing it. So I had him scheduled with dumbbell incline bench press, because once again, we want a strong upper body too. Dumbbell Romanian deadlifts, also known as RDL, so that we train the glutes, the hamstrings, and your lower back, because we need a good, strong posterior chain, right? When you're out there hiking, you want some strong glutes and a strong lower back. And then single arm rows. So in general, these elevation circuits, I like to do 3 exercises. I like to do a upper body exercise, a press of some kind, a back exercise, and a leg exercise. And then some days I switch it up because I like to include a single leg exercise too. The next movement in this training session, we're going to get lots of that single leg movement in. So we'll get to that in a second. But this circuit, so once again, do the movements and just move on to the next one immediately following. You'll get about 15 to 20 seconds rest between. You're moving at a very consistent pace. So this is forcing your body, kind of like when you're hiking. You do a lot of work with the set, boom, 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 and then you move on to the next set. Take a few deep breaths, and that kind of mimics the cardiovascular capacity that you're going to find yourself experiencing when you're climbing steep elevation in the mountains. So that is what we're trying to replicate. But instead of replicating that by being out in the trail, we're replicating that in the gym by using your entire body, top to bottom. And on top of that, we're also getting your stuff strong, your joints and your muscles strong, right? Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. Now, following the elevation circuit here in the mountain strength days, we're going to move on to trail conditioning. So again, we start with that mountain strength. Then we go on to the strength and conditioning portion. And now we're moving on to trail specific conditioning, because we also need that conditioning, right? This is where I like to use the single leg movements like step ups. Nothing, and I mean nothing, simulates hiking mountains better than step ups. They're just such a perfect movement, and they're so loadable. You could wear your loaded backpack. You could hold dumbbells. You could wear your loaded backpack and hold dumbbells. You can hold your backpack in front and bear hug it. Shout out to all my clients that hate doing that. There's so many different ways that you can do this step up and make it heavier and progress it each week. You could do more reps, or you could just add weight. So the trail conditioning, how I want you to complete the trail conditioning is you find a pace and you just maintain it. So I don't want there to be any rest. So this day had 100 step ups with 50 steps per leg. The goal is to just find a pace and keep going. Maintain that, just like you're going to do out on the trail. You're going to maintain a pace. Remember, I've said it in many videos, the best hiking pace is going as fast as you can go, but as slow as you need to go so that you never have to stop. That is the best hiking pace. So with these step-ups, by doing these single leg movements, you're making sure each leg is getting its own work, because we need each of your legs to be strong together. And finally, the finisher here on these mountain strength days, we're talking core finishers, because we need a strong core. And my favorite movement to train the core is the plank. The plank forces your body to do what it's supposed to do, your core to do what it was meant to do, to stabilize. Nothing's better than a core stabilizer. So 2 total minutes, rest as needed. The goal is to be able to do a full 2-minute plank without needing to rest, but ultimately accumulate 2 total minutes. That is day 1 of the mountain strength method. That is the first mountain strength training session of the week. Moving on to training session number 2, the elevation day. This is where we're building that athleticism so that you can move like an athlete when you're out in the mountains. How often do you find yourself having to jump over boulders or jump down from things, or you trip on a root and you got to catch yourself, or you have to skirt your way across the river from rock to rock to rock? You have to be able to do these athletic movements and move confidently like an athlete in the mountains to have the most amount of success. So we like to do this with body weight training movements. You can also add dumbbells, but for the most part, body weight training is going to be your best bet. This day had him doing an AMRAP, so as many rounds as possible in 18 minutes. It's amazing how much work you can do in a short period of time when you never stop. You just keep moving. So what did this look like today? 5 burpees, 10 jump squats, 20 jumping jacks, and 30 mountain climbers. It's a great circuit. You're getting the whole body working, from the muscles to your heart rate and your lungs, your joints, everything. Upper body, lower body. That circuit, fantastic. Make sure you write that down. As many rounds as possible, 18 minutes, 5 burpees, 10 jump squats, 20 jumping jacks, 30 mountain climbers. Now, you may notice a lot of those movements have you leaving the ground. Yes, because jumping is athletic. The more that you can jump, the more athletic you'll be able to move when you're out there. So I like to put these sorts of movements into training sessions because they're not, when in real life, do you ever find yourself jumping? Not often, but having that ability to do that, very helpful when you're out in the backcountry, because the mountains aren't really going to care if you have the ability or not. You're going to have to do what you're going to have to do when you're out there. So the more you prepare here, the better off you'll be. And by doing these circuits in, this fashion, as many rounds as possible, you're building that ability to climb steep slabs, to climb that elevation gain, because it's hard on your body and you're having to move. And while your heart is beating through the chest, this is where we build that anaerobic capacity so that you can actually successfully climb those steep slabs, those steep elevation gains without feeling like death is, behind you there on the trail, waiting to take your body and bury you in the woods. Day 3. This is the steady state cardio day. 40 minutes steady state cardio of choice. I don't really care what you do. Run, rower, elliptical, bike, incline treadmill, stair stepper, go for a ruck. The point of this is to build your heart rate up, get it up, and then maintain that for 40 minutes. So whatever movement you decide to do, whether again, it's the bike, the rower, the elliptical, treadmill, whatever, it's all about getting that heart rate elevated and keep it there. Maintain that for a good 40 minutes, 30, 40, 45 minutes, because that's ultimately going to give you the ability to do those long miles, to operate and keep operating with an elevated heart rate. We all know we need that when we're out on the trail, right? We need to be able to maintain that. So that is what we're building and what we're simulating with this day, the approach day. It's all about that steady state cardio, that low intensity. This is your like zone 2, zone 3, where zone 2 is, you're breathing heavily, but you can very easily maintain a conversation. Zone 3 is you're breathing heavier, harder to maintain a conversation, but you still can. That's kind of that sweet spot. I feel like a little between there. That's the goal. Get your heart rate up there as fast as possible and maintain it. That's going to help you maintain that long hiking pace all day long. All right, day 4, mountain strength, day 2, right? Remember the mountain strength days? These are the most important days of the week in terms of your training. They're definitely going to be the longest, but they're the most impactful. So we're doing them twice. Now, the first day we did squats and bench press for our strength portion. Now we're going to do trap bar deadlifts and shoulder presses. Remember, upper and lower body. Hiking is a full body pursuit. So we're going to make sure your entire body is strong, conditioned, and unbreakable. We're going to do that with trap bar deadlifts and shoulder presses here on day 2. Now, similar to day 1, we had 2 sets of 6 with the reps in reserve at 1 to 2, and then we're going to lower the weight 20% for a max rep set. The trap bar deadlift is my number 1 favorite movement for hikers and people who will never be on a trail a day in their life. Doesn't matter, for as they're a human being, the trap bar deadlift is the most functional movement and most functional exercise that exists, because you're literally bending over, picking up something off the ground and standing up with it. Does not get much more functional than that. And your arms are at your side, so it's very easy to just learn the movement because it feels very natural. That's why I like the trap bar deadlift. And you can load it really heavy and build that strength. Or for our hiking purposes, you can do lightweight trap bar deadlifts for tons of reps, and it's going to feel just like what you're doing when you're climbing steep elevation out in the backcountry, step after step after step. When those glutes are burning, you're going to get that exact same feeling with the trap bar deadlift. And then the shoulder press, similar to the bench press from day 1, a little more reps, 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps in reserve, 1 to 2. Once again, remember, you have to push that weight, so you can only do 1 to maybe 2 more reps. That's the sweet spot. That's where you want to find yourself with that. So make sure the weight is heavy enough. And then we're going to move on to the elevation circuit, except we've got some different movements during this training session. So we've got dumbbell goblet squats, dumbbell reverse lunges, and remember, another single leg movement, and then some dumbbell bicep curls. You might be saying, James, why do I need strong biceps? I'm not a bodybuilder, I'm a hiker. Because once again, I want to make sure your entire body, top to bottom, is resilient. No stone left unturned. Plus, who doesn't really want some better biceps in their life? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. But ultimately, bicep curls, we got to make sure everything is strong, top to bottom. And on top of that, your biceps are coming into play when you're pulling yourself up by things. You're having to grab a tree and pull yourself up. Even when you're using trekking poles, your biceps are coming into play. So ultimately, let's make sure that everything is being trained at once. And remember, you're doing these circuits one after the other. So we're on top of building strength with the movements. You're also building your conditioning while building the strength. So you're lifting these weights in a way that challenges both your muscles and your heart at the same time, just like the trail's going to do. Speaking of the trail, now we move on to the trail conditioning once again. I've got burpees or devil's presses for 30 reps. So you might be saying, whoa, what are devil's presses? They are from Satan himself. But for this day, for him, I had either burpees or devil's presses, kind of depending on what he wanted to do. But once again, like the trail conditioning before, where I told you to do the 100 step-ups and to find a pace and maintain it, same exact thing goes here with the burpees or the devil's press. Find a pace and maintain it for 30 reps. Your heart rate is going to be elevated for sure. Maybe that means you have 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds between each burpee. Doesn't matter. The point is to find a pace and keep it going. We're trying to simulate that cardiovascular capacity that we need for when we're training or when we're out on the trail, and we're doing that with our training. Burpees are a great movement because they make you go from standing to laying down to standing up again. Once again, very athletic movement and very functional movement. And also burpees are great because they're very modifiable. So if you can't do the push-up, then don't do the push-up. If you can't do the jump back, then just do a step back. If you can't do the jump when you get to the top, then don't do the jump. Ultimately, I want you going from standing to laying down to standing again. And then the devil's presses does that, but adds dumbbells to the mix. So I like that personally. It's a fantastic movement. And now for the core finisher on Mountain Strength Day 2, which is different from the planks on Day 1, we're doing arguably my favorite exercise, the farmer carry. So pick up something heavy and carry it. So for him, I have him using dumbbells, 3 50-yard carries, holding 40% of his body weight in each hand. We are building all total body strength here. Grip, back, traps. That's where your backpack's sitting, right? Core, all of these things, well moving, also your conditioning. Everything working together to simulate what you need to be strong when you are out on the mountains. Remember, we make it hard here so that when you get out on the trail, it becomes a lot easier and you can just enjoy the fruits of your labor. But farmers carry a fantastic core movement and just total body strength movement all around. And moving on to Day 5, the final day of the training session, we're doing the backpack day, building that strength to hold a pack and putting some miles on the feet. This is the ruck day. So for him, I have a 45-minute ruck wearing a 20 to 40-pound backpack with a goal distance of 3 miles. We always need something to shoot for, to keep us moving, because when you're out there walking, it's very easy to kind of lollygag. But ultimately, we want to have something we're shooting for so that we stay focused on the training and we move forward. Now, you might ask, why do I have this backpack 20 to 40 pounds? Kind of dependent on what he had access to at the time. But also, ideally, when you are doing these rucks, your backpack needs to be at the bare minimum, what the weight of your pack is when you actually go out hiking. Ideally, it should be much more than that. The goal is when you get out on the trail to actually go hiking, your backpack fully loaded feels light because you've been training with such a heavier backpack. So that's what I want you to be doing. 40 pounds, if you wear usually have a 25, 30 pound pack, yeah, wear a 40 pound pack. If you usually have like a 10 or 15 pound pack, yeah, maybe a 25 pound pack would be good for you to ruck. And just continue week after week after week, progress the weight that's in your backpack, progress the distance, progress the time, always be pushing yourself and shooting for higher and heavier stuff. The more you can do here, where the stakes are low, right? Walking down your neighborhood, low stakes compared to what happens out in the mountains. Now, if you're serious about turning your hikes and all of your outdoor pursuits into strong, fit, and confident adventures, it is time to train for those goals. And here are 2 ways that I can help you do that. One, you could join my next 6-week Great Range Athlete group training program where we help you get strong and fit for the mountains. Or if you prefer a more customized experience in the direct support of a one-on-one coach, then book a strategy call with me. We'll come up with a plan for you so that you can become your strongest self out in the mountains and in your personal life, because they are not different. They are one and the same. So book a call with me. I'll see you on the call. Implement these principles and these things we've talked about today into your training, and I guarantee you, you will show up to the mountains a stronger, more confident hiker, and you have better mountain adventures, because that is what it's all about. So if you want some help so you don't have to do the thinking and you know you'll have a plan that takes you from point A to point B, book a call with me today and we'll get that developed for you. In the meantime, leave a comment below what you want to see me talk about in the next video to help you get strong and fit for your outdoors adventures. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.